In Cincinnati, the FBI has begun investigating if police violated civil rights law when they shot and killed an unarmed teenager on Saturday. He is the fourth black man killed by Cincinnati police since November and the 15th since 1995. Many people are angry. ABC's Dean Reynolds is in Cincinnati tonight.
Mostly young crowds were on the streets for a second time in 12 hours today, protesting the latest shooting death of a black man by police. The riots today and overnight erupted in the wake of the shooting on Saturday of 19-year-old Timothy Thomas. Thomas, who was unarmed, had 14 misdemeanor warrants for his arrest. He was shot as he was chased on foot by police. He is the fourth African-American killed here by police since just November. Yesterday, his mother attended an emotional city council meeting.
You took a part of my life from me.
All right.
So I demand to know why.
The police chief apologized and promised an investigation. The officer involved in the shooting said he feared Thomas was drawing a gun. But a police videotape of at least part of the incident, a tape that might help the public understand what happened, was impounded by authorities for a possible grand jury investigation. Mayor Charles Lucan acknowledges his city is deeply divided along racial lines.
I'm as frustrated as everybody else in this city, and I don't have a rabbit in the hat to make it go away.
Black leaders who have sued the city over racial profiling say the police force should stop sending inexperienced white officers into black neighborhoods.
Most of the shootings are based on subjective fear of blacks as opposed to objective factors to justify you shooting in fear of your own life.
Late today, the mayor here said the situation is scary and it reminded him of the civil rights clashes of the 1960s. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Cincinnati.
The time between when officers first arrived on scene Thursday and the moment shots were fired is just 6 seconds.
So for them to process and determine a different course of action, I think, is unreasonable.
Cincinnati Police Chief Tieesha says all four suspects ran into the woods in different directions when two officers rolled up to the stolen car. One officer chased the armed suspect, the other officer a different suspect.
And that'll be significant here in a moment.
Within seconds of running, the armed suspect falls. The officer chasing him reports seeing a gun.
This individual gets up, still has the firearm in his hand, and continues to run through the dumpsters.
On the other side of the dumpster is the other officer chasing a different suspect.
He's got a gun on your right, on your right.
According to police interviews, that officer said the armed suspect emerged from the dumpsters pointing a gun at him.
And he felt threatened for his life, and that's why he discharged his firearm.
Chief Tieesha says the officer fired off 4 or 5 shots, hitting the armed suspect twice. Police attempted first aid, but the person later died.
This is where we have to go to the state of mind of the officer at the time. What are they seeing, feeling, hearing? If they feel like their life or somebody else's life is in danger, they have a responsibility to stop that threat.
So there's a reason why officers testify in court first. They testify first, get the narrative out to the judge in the listening gallery before the defendant does. So I think in this case, the police chief is getting this narrative out to set the stage for the potential jury as well as the public. But let's take a look at this and use our common sense. I chose to do this video and talk about this because it hits close to home. It actually hits home. Cincinnati, Ohio is my hometown. But how this, gets me emotionally involved is because in 2001, in April 2001, I experienced the race riots of Cincinnati. And it came after an unarmed man, black man, Timothy Thomas, was shot in the back and the armpits by then police officer Stephen Roach. The city erupted because this happened, and it led to days of unrest, curfew. So we're going to go to Cincinnati.com/The Inquirer to look at the frame-by-frame video review of the body-worn camera of the officers that made contact with Mr. Ryan Hinton seconds before his death. It's only 6 seconds that they choose to show us but at first I noticed in the video that there is no sound, so the officer activated the camera after firing the shots because it goes back like 30 seconds with no sound. This is not like a traffic stop when you have a stolen vehicle and then you can do a high-risk felony stop on a vehicle. It's parked. And what I do know from previous videos and doing some of the research was that there's GPS. There was GPS in this car. The owner assisted in finding the vehicle. And there were undercover cars in the parking lot that identified the vehicle was there. Therefore, the marked units came to make contact. I went ahead and found this article here on Local 12 News in Cincinnati, WKRC. According to police, a man in Edgewood reported his car missing on Thursday and gave authorities access to the car's GPS. Officers tracked the vehicle to a condominium in East Price Hill where 4 men were sleeping inside them. 2 officers, 4 individuals in the vehicle. So it doesn't appear they had enough manpower. Mr. Hinton, he was just an occupant in the vehicle. It's not saying that he stole a vehicle or anything like that. He was just in it.
He's got a gun. He's got a gun on your right. On your right. He's got a gun.
When Mr. Hinton fell, got up, went in between the dumpsters, and he kind of wouldn't know that someone was there. An officer was on the other side. As you see, he was running, and as he fell running hard away from the officer. The way his body fell and the way he was running towards that direction, and the officer didn't say anything to him until after he passed.
Get the fuck down.
Definitely have to wait and see what the autopsy reports, because they say that he was in a bladed stance. This is one of those cop words that they use. Only cops use that term, bladed stance. I'm also following the trial of Christopher Scher out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's testifying right now. And that's one thing that he kept saying on the stand in the death of Patrick Loyola, is that when he got out the car, he was in a bladed stance.
You said Patrick came out with a bladed stance.
Yeah.
Okay, a bladed stance we heard yesterday. It's like, that's protecting a gun, protecting something like that. And that's what
it could. Yeah, it could mean that. Yeah.
Or maybe trying to fight, right?
Yeah.
So at that point in time, that's a bladed stance. So you think he's going to fight or may have a gun?
I'm not saying that. Just the way he was standing.
So right there, you think that's bladed, like he's maybe going to do something?
It's definitely a different perception than the perception I had.
Different angle, so now you're saying you perceive it as bladed stance, like he may fight or have a gun.
He just took a bladed stance, and it looks significantly different when you're in my position to the left of that.
So that would be more your body cam.
Yeah.
So taking this bladed stance, you've heard from officer's door, that raises the level of suspicion, right?
It's something to be aware of, yes. Yeah.
And we've had people explain the case.
One thing that would be used, in court if the officer happens to get charged, or if they bring up, anything challenging this use of force, they think about the Graham factors. And those factors are the severity of the crime, the immediacy of a threat, actively resisting arrest, and attempting to evade arrest by flight. So the severity of the crime, what do we have? Mr. Hinton, he was a passenger, or he was in a stolen vehicle. That's why whenever we had a traffic stop and the occupants ran, we always went after the driver. So you have the immediacy of a threat. Now when it comes to the immediacy of officer safety, okay, he's running away. He falls. They say that they heard the metal of the firearm hit the concrete. He picks it back up and continues to run. The officer, according to, this is hearsay because the police chief says that the officer said that Mr. Hinton pointed the firearm at him.
said that when the individual came out between the dumpsters, he had the firearm in front of him. He was in like a bladed position, and it was pointed at the officer. Said that when the individual came out between the dumpsters, he had the firearm in front of him. He was in like a bladed position, and it was pointed at the officer.
The other factor is attempting to evade by flight. These are factors that will play into if this is a justified use of force, if there's, criminal charges or anything like that. Like I said, we'll just have to wait until everything plays out. Here's what happened after Mr. Rodney Hinton Jr., father of Mr. Ryan Hinton, reviewed the body cam footage. His charges are out of Hamilton County, which is Cincinnati, Ohio. However, you notice that the courtroom was filled with Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies. Was that excessive? Was that necessary? For Mr. Rodney Hinton Jr.'s safety, he's being housed in Claremont County, not Hamilton County, for his safety. There was comments I saw made that as he was walking out of the courtroom, this is Mr. Hinton Jr., that he was mugging and saying something to the deputies. If you happen to look, there was a supporter who was on the other side of the glass who was throwing up a heart for him. That's who he was motioning to. I definitely sympathize with him losing your son, and this is one of the reasons why, after someone gets a death notification, you don't really let them drive. You watch over them. You have someone else with them, a support person. We don't know what he was feeling, how he was grieving to watch this video. And that is something that none of us want to experience. I am interested in reviewing the autopsy report for Mr. Hinton. I know it'll be tough, like these are 18-year-olds. That's really all I have. If you have any commentary or anything like that, leave it in the comments, and I'll look forward to reviewing this case as more details become available.
The drumbeat of police batons on riot shields
Inside, disperse!
Was as steady as the rain. But even Mother Nature couldn't cool the anger that erupted in Over the Rhine.
It's on now, bitch! We ready! I just got shot in the back with one of them things with my back turned like they did my friend downtown.
They kill us, man. They murder us, man.
The fatal police shooting of a 19-year-old African-American during a chase sparked the explosion. But the anger between police and the African-American community has smoldered for years.
You got the people down at City Hall, they got all these degrees, but nobody understands a simple phrase that enough is enough.
When it comes down to black people, they're just terrible. You don't have no win whatsoever. As far as you could be in.
The sound of scattered gunshots blended with blasts from police guns firing beanbags, tear gas. It mixed with the taunting of demonstrators into a sometimes surreal but dangerous mix in which a pregnant woman was shot with a beanbag.
He told me to go on my door, and I told him I couldn't get in. I told him I couldn't get in. I told him I live right here, and he said so, and just shot me in my leg.
Ministers, trying to calm the crowd, admitted the anger was too great.
Everyone here are not thugs and punks and that kind of thing. These people are concerned, for their lives. Been mistreated and abused in some situations, and let's face it, we got to come together.